Greetings and welcome to the Reparenting Daily podcast. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into reparenting, exploring all of the tools and resources that you'll need to help you along your journey. This podcast is divided into 3 sections. The first is a daily reading. The second is a discussion of the reading, followed by suggested journal prompts. And the last section is a peaceful meditation for closing. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whenever and wherever you're joining us. I'm so glad you've joined us today on this journey of self-expansion and growth. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe this podcast wherever you're listening, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Your help here really makes a huge difference in allowing us to spread the word and build a more supportive community as we continue with our self-reparenting. Now, before we get started, I have some quick updates for you. First, I'd like to introduce our Patreon community. Here, for a small monthly fee, you can join us for 3 weekly meetings for additional support with your reparenting journey. On Sundays, we have a meditation group. On Tuesdays, we have a book club discussion. And on Thursdays, we have open topic conversations. You can find out more details about this if you go to the Reparenting Daily website and check out on the community tab. In addition to that, we also have a WhatsApp group to foster more daily connection and support for whenever you need it. And this is a community of fellow travelers from around the world who will always be there when help is needed. It's just one of the many ways that we're building our network of resources that are really going to help support your reparenting journey. For the next update, I'm very excited to announce that I've just released some first books. The first is probably the most important, and it's called the Reparenting Daily Journal. Now, this journal is a daily guide for 365 days of the year. We'll be starting in 2025, and basically each month corresponds to a theme in reparenting, and each week of each month corresponds to a sub-theme of the monthly theme. Now, from the beginning of the year, 2025, each daily episode will correspond with the themes in the daily workbooks. And so you can use this as a guide to work through your reparenting journey to stay focused, ensuring that you cover all of the most critical areas within a year's time. And again, this will be aligning up with the podcast, so you can use both of these to make a more engaging and interactive experience. This is ensuring that you really book progress on your reparenting journey. The next set of books I've written is called Fairy Tales for Reparenting. This is a collection of 3 books that contain short stories or fairy tales inspired from Jungian analysis, mythology, philosophy, and psychology that really is targeted to helping you connect to your inner child. And so these stories are very short. They're not very long. They're written in a very simple manner so that it's not too taxing on you, so you can more easily connect with the joy and fun of your inner child. More interestingly, however, is that at the end of each story, there's an analysis section that really analyzes the main themes and concepts within each story to provide encouragement and inspiration. Additionally, you will find corresponding journal prompts after each story and each analysis section to help you reflect deeper on how the themes of each fairy tale can be reflected and correspond to your own personal journey as you work towards self-expansion. You can find all of these books now available on Amazon, so go ahead and give us a look and give us some support. And as I've mentioned before, this entire process of reparenting and self-expansion is really about growth, iterative change, and continuous improvement. Much like the process of nurturing the bonsai tree, our reparenting journey requires our consistency and care. So many thanks for being here and for supporting this project, and also to committing on your journey of self-expansion. Now, without further ado, let's dive into today's practice. Today's reading is an article entitled How to Be Kind to Yourself and Still Get Stuff Done by Leo Babauta. This is from the website Zen Habits. As always, you can find the link in the show notes. I'll just read a portion. You can check out the full article by clicking on the link. Just as a reminder, this is February and the theme is self-compassion and self-kindness. We're in week 2, which is February 8th until 14th. And the theme of this week is practicing self-kindness and self-forgiveness. How to be kind to yourself and still get stuff done. I found that there are 2 profound changes that almost any of us can make. Number 1, become kinder to ourselves. And number two, build trust in ourselves. Unfortunately, because we don't really trust ourselves, we're very rarely kind to ourselves. When I ask people to start being kind to themselves, they usually come back at some point with this dilemma. But if I'm too kind to myself, I won't get anything done. This is the fear. When people start being kind to themselves, that they'll be too soft, that they won't get stuff done. They'll let themselves off the hook too easily. They'll just lie around doing nothing. It's an understandable fear. If you have had times when you procrastinated, you probably worry about this. Let's talk about why kindness to self is so important, how to do it, and how to still get stuff done, even when you're kind to yourself. Why kindness to self is so damned important. Most of us are not very kind to ourselves. We often do things like come down hard on ourselves when we don't meet our expectations, let ourselves off the hook for doing something, and then feel terrible about ourselves, let others down and beat ourselves up for doing so, look at our flaws and see them as ugly, huge shortcomings, or reasons why we're falling short, or harshly punishing ourselves to be better, to do better, judging ourselves as inadequate so far. These are just some of the common examples. The truth is, most of us are judging ourselves, beating ourselves up, looking harshly at our shortcomings and flaws, a lot of the time. And that's why we're stressed, anxious, frustrated, and disappointed so often. A different path might be kindness to ourselves. When we see a flaw, we might see the beauty in it. Instead of always striving to be better, we can find gratitude for how great we already are. Instead of beating ourselves up, we can be kind to ourselves and say that we have tried our best, that we have had good intentions, that we have a good heart. Kindness to ourselves, always. This would transform our relationship to ourselves. It would remove barriers that we face right now, including number one, if you aren't harsh on yourself, you're missing a few days of habit. You'll just start again without making a big deal of it. Number two, if you aren't harsh on yourself for failing at something, you won't be afraid of it, and learning and growth will become easier. You can write, start a business, code, take online courses, start a new activity without all the burden of self-harshness, and fear of failure. And number three, if you aren't constantly focusing on your flaws, you'll start to feel more whole. This would change how you show up in the world, how you feel about life, and how you relate to others. Those are just a few examples. But I found that almost all of our barriers are self-imposed. We are harsh on ourselves, and it makes everything else much more difficult. Kindness to ourselves lessens barriers and anxiety, and simply so much struggle. That's the reading for today. As a reminder, please do check out the link in the show notes and complete the entire article in your free time. Welcome back. Now, this reading is deeply important for both reparenting as well as for developing self-kindness, because it highlights how self-judgment and self-hardness create unnecessary barriers in our lives. Many people in need of reparenting grew up in environments where love was conditional, mistakes were punished, and self-worth was tied to achievement. As a result, they internalized the belief that they must be hard on themselves to succeed. Reparenting requires us to unlearn these patterns and replace them with self-compassion, viewing our mistakes with understanding rather than shame, and allowing ourselves to grow without the fear of failure. By practicing kindness to ourselves, we shift from a survival-based mindset of relentless self-criticism to one of trust, acceptance, and encouragement. This shift enables us to nurture our inner child, showing them that they are inherently worthy and don't need to earn self-love through perfectionism. Self-kindness is crucial because it removes the emotional weight that makes daily life feel so exhausting. Many fear that being kind to themselves will make them unproductive. But as the reading points out, it actually makes it easier to stay consistent and move forward. Without the burden of self-harshness, we can approach the challenge with curiosity rather than anxiety, resilience rather than avoidance. When we are no longer our own worst enemy, we stop self-sabotaging ourselves with guilt, procrastination, and perfectionism. This fundamental change improves not only our emotional well-being, but also our confidence and ability to take meaningful action in our lives. Kindness isn't about being complacent. It's about creating a sustainable way to grow while still feeling whole and at peace. As we move to the journal prompts for today, number 1, how has self-criticism affected my ability to take action in my life? What would I change if I replaced it with self-kindness? Number 2, if I were to reparent myself with unconditional love, how would I respond to my mistakes differently? And number 3, what are 3 ways I can show kindness to myself today, even in small moments? That's it for today. As always, thanks for being here. Take care of yourself, and please do be well. Welcome back. Now, this is the third and final section of the daily podcast. This is your silent meditation. Please find a place where you can be comfortable and undisturbed, where you can relax and spend some time with yourself for this 10-minute silent meditation. You can choose to be sitting, standing, lying down, or in whatever position makes you comfortable today. Just take some time to listen to yourself. Next, be sure that you are taking some time to be with your breath to connect with your body. Don't be disturbed or overwhelmed by your thoughts. Simply allow them to pass. Just observe them. Do not engage with your thoughts. Only be mindful of them passing as if they are drifting down a river. Use this time to connect with yourself. Whatever time of day you are listening to this, Namaste.